You'll only be truly missed when your absence becomes permanent, when they can't reach the version of you that moved on. That's the truth most people realize too late. And here's the paradox, my friends. They don't miss you when you cry for them, when you wait, when you stay available. They miss you the moment you stop needing them, when you've grown so far beyond their reach that your silence says everything your words never could. Hey folks, imagine this. You were once like a warm fireplace in someone's cold cabin, always burning, always there. Even when they didn't sit beside you, your warmth still filled the room. But the day you stopped feeding that fire, something changed. At first, they didn't notice the chill. They were too distracted, too busy taking your warmth for granted. But as the nights grew colder and the fire stayed dark, they realized you were the reason the room felt alive. That's how it works. People don't always miss you when you leave. They miss you when they finally feel what it's like to live without your energy. And by then, you've moved on. Let's break a lie real quick. If they really cared, they would have shown it before. Sounds fair, right? But here's the truth. Most people can't handle. People often don't appreciate value until it becomes unavailable. You were consistent. You were loyal. You gave. You showed up. You offered your best. And they thought it would last forever, because you never walked away before. You see, your presence became routine for them, not special, not rare, but routine, and the mind tricks us. If it's always there, we believe it'll always be there. Until one day, you shift, quietly, powerfully, and suddenly they're forced to confront a world where you're no longer a text away, no longer an option, no longer emotionally orbiting them. Let me tell you something, my friends. They don't miss who you were when you begged. They miss who you became when you stopped. And that's where your power begins. Think about it. When someone walks into an art gallery and stares at a masterpiece, they may glance once and move on, distracted by the noise. But if the painting is taken away, if the frame is empty the next time they visit, suddenly they realize how much it meant, how it made them feel, how unique it truly was. That's you. You were the presence they didn't know how to value. But now, you're the void they can't ignore. So if you're sitting there wondering if they'll ever miss you, if they'll ever realize what they lost, let me tell you, they will, but only after you've moved on. And by that time, you'll be too focused on your growth, your peace, your purpose to even care. This is your moment to rise, not for revenge, not for validation, but for yourself. The strongest comeback isn't loud, it's silent. It's when your energy shifts, your focus returns, and you realize you were never the one lacking. You were just giving to the wrong hands. Write this in the comments to seal it in your soul. I've moved on. Say it, show it, believe it. And if this hit home, press that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay with me. Because today, we're not just letting go. We're leveling up. We're moving forward. We're done waiting. I've moved on. Number 1. The illusion of your permanence. They didn't think you'd ever leave until you already had. And that's the punch most people don't feel until it's too late. You were so consistent, so available, so forgiving that your presence became a given, not a gift. You became the emotional safety net, the one who answered even when they didn't deserve replies, the one who stayed even when the room felt empty. They never questioned whether you'd be there, and that became their biggest mistake. Imagine a lighthouse. It stands tall, unwavering, guiding ships through the darkest nights and roughest waters. It never demands thanks. It just shines, until one day it doesn't. And now the ships, so used to its guidance, crash blindly through the fog, desperate for the light they thought would never go out. My friends, you were that light. Now ask yourself, how many times did you stay when you should have walked away? How often did you make excuses for their silence, their coldness, their inconsistency? And why? Because deep down, a part of you feared what would happen if you stopped showing up. You were afraid they'd forget you, replace you, move on like you never mattered. But let me break the lie that fear feeds you. Consistency doesn't make you unforgettable. Absence does. People don't miss what's always in front of them. They miss what they can no longer reach. And it's not because they suddenly gained clarity. It's because your departure stripped them of the comfort they once abused. The truth is, they didn't see your worth when you were there, because they believed you'd never leave. They mistook your loyalty for weakness, your love for naivety, your patience for passivity. But now that you've gone quiet, now that you've pulled back, they're starting to notice the cracks in their world, because your energy is no longer filling the gaps. And that scares them, because for the first time they're realizing you were the one holding everything together. You were the peace, you were the warmth, you were the meaning. And now their mind starts to spiral. Did I push them too far? Are they really gone? What if they move on before I figure it out? But here's the twist. They always thought they had time to ignore, time to breadcrumb, time to half love you while keeping their options open. They thought you'd stay stuck in their orbit, spinning like a loyal moon around their ego. But not anymore. Because you woke up, you stopped waiting, and you started choosing yourself. They don't know what to do with this version of you, the one who's silent, the one who doesn't reply, the one who glows without reaching back. And that's when the fear sets in, not for you, but for them. Fear that they'll never find another you. Fear that their window has closed. Fear that you, the one they never imagined letting go, have finally moved on. And yeah, it's hard, because even now a part of you wonders, did I matter? Was I just a phase? Will they ever understand how deeply I loved them? But listen to me. Your value isn't tied to who acknowledges it. You weren't meant to prove your worth to someone too blind to see it. You were meant to grow so far, so bright, so high, that by the time they look back, you're already gone. Let this be your awakening, not your regret, because the illusion of your permanence has shattered, and that's a good thing. You're no longer their fallback plan. You're no longer the lighthouse they assumed would always shine. You are the storm now, the force of nature that changed everything, quietly, powerfully, permanently. So if you're reading this and it hits your chest like truth usually does, don't just sit there. Drop this in the comments and own it. I was never theirs to keep. Say it. Show it. Prove it to yourself and to the world around you. Because the next part of this journey, oh, it only gets better from here. Stay with me. We're just getting started. Number 2. The void doesn't hurt until it echoes. They didn't notice your presence until the silence started screaming. That's the irony, isn't it, my friends? They didn't flinch when you were always around. They didn't pause when your name popped up. Your texts, your comfort, your kindness. It was all background noise. Familiar, predictable, convenient. But the moment you went quiet, the moment you didn't reach out, that's when the storm rolled in. That's when the silence, your silence, became a mirror, echoing everything they once ignored. See, at first it's subtle, a shift they try to brush off. You don't send that good morning message. You don't check on them late at night. No reactions to their stories. No just thinking of you calls. Nothing. Just stillness. And that stillness is louder than any argument, louder than any begging, louder than anything they ever expected from you. They scroll through their phone. No notification. Refresh. Still nothing. That's when it hits. The presence that once filled their day has vanished, and in its place, a void, a space so obvious it starts whispering doubts into their ears. Did I push them away? Are they gone? Why does this feel empty now? Imagine walking through your house at night. It's quiet, but not peaceful. It's hollow. You hear the creaks in the floor, the ticking of the clock, the sound of your own breathing. That's what your absence becomes for them, a haunting they can't escape, a soundless reminder that you're no longer filling their space. But let's talk about what they don't tell you. They'll pretend they're fine, that they're busy, that they needed space anyway. But in reality, they're haunted by the echo of you, the smile that doesn't show up anymore, the voice they took for granted, the energy they once absorbed like a sponge, now gone. And the worst part, they thought you were bluffing. They believed the silence was temporary, that eventually you'd come crawling back, that you couldn't live without them, because for so long your pattern told them that no matter how they treated you, you would return. You always did. But this time, you didn't. And that's when the silence gets heavy. That's when the echo becomes unbearable. Because it's not just the absence of messages or calls, it's the absence of being important. The realization that someone once deeply invested in them is now investing in themselves. Let me break another lie for you. You've probably told yourself, if I go quiet, they'll forget me. But let me tell you something straight. People don't forget the ones who leave them feeling something. They forget the noise. They forget the surface-level distractions. But someone who gave them peace, support, attention, affection, that stays. It lingers in the background, waiting to remind them when they least expect it. And that reminder usually shows up in the form of emptiness. They'll go to the same places, talk to the same people, do the same things, but it won't feel the same. Because the invisible thread that connected them to comfort, to presence, to being seen, that thread has been cut, and you were the one holding it. It's painful, I know, to think that you had to vanish to finally be felt, to realize that someone only noticed your depth once you stopped offering it. But here's the shift I want you to make. It's not your job to keep showing up for people who only recognize your worth through loss. You were never meant to be their shadow. You were meant to be the sun, and now that your light is gone, they're waking up to the cold. Let that cold teach them. Let your absence echo, because the ones who truly felt your presence will feel your silence even more, and those who didn't. They never deserved the warmth in the first place. So the next time you doubt your impact, remember this. The silence they feel now is the proof that you mattered all along. Now, don't just let this hit your heart. Anchor it into your identity. Write this in the comments and own it. My silence is power. Let the world see it. Let you see it. Because silence doesn't mean weakness. It means you've reclaimed your voice in the most stoic way possible. Stay with me. What comes next? Oh, it's even louder than silence. Number 3, your growth forces, their reflection. Nothing haunts them more than watching you become everything they once took for granted. You want to know when they really start to feel it? Not when you go quiet. Not even when you walk away. It's when they see you thriving without them. That's when the discomfort kicks in. That's when their chest gets tight and their thoughts spiral. Because now your growth isn't just impressive, it's confrontational. It forces them to look in the mirror they've been avoiding. They see you smiling in photos, focused, calm, at peace. You're not just gone, you're glowing. You're no longer responding, reacting, or waiting. You're building. And in that stillness, in that becoming, they're faced with something terrifying, the reality that you never needed them to complete you. Imagine them sitting alone, scrolling. They see you, new mindset, new goals, maybe even a new look. They remember how you used to explain your dreams to them, how you shared your ideas, your fears, your plans, and now you're out there living them, without their validation, without their help, without their attention. That's when they realize the most painful truth of all. They didn't lose someone who needed them. They lost someone who could have grown with them if only they'd shown up. Now that you're no longer orbiting them, now that your world doesn't revolve around their availability, they're forced to reflect on everything they missed, the conversations they brushed off, the love they minimized, the effort they didn't return. And reflection? It's not kind. It doesn't lie. It doesn't sugarcoat. It shows them everything as it really was, and everything it could have been. Let's break the illusion. For a long time, they thought they were above it. They convinced themselves that you would always be in that same emotional place, stuck on them, waiting for another chance. They didn't think you'd change. They didn't believe you'd outgrow them. But now they're watching it unfold in real time, quietly, day by day. They're seeing you build a life that no longer includes them, and it burns. Because your transformation isn't just growth, it's a mirror reflecting what they could have become too, if they hadn't chosen comfort over effort. As the philosopher Carl Jung once said, your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. That's what's happening to them right now. They're awakening, but not in a pleasant way. In the kind of way that stings, that scratches at the conscience, because it's not just about you moving on, it's about what your moving on reveals about them. They might start asking themselves, why didn't I try harder? Why did I think they'd always be there? How did I miss something so valuable while I had it? And deep down, they'll realize, you were growing the whole time. Even when you were hurting, even when you were silent, even when they were ignoring you. You were never stagnant, you were becoming, and now that evolution has left them behind. But don't get it twisted. This isn't about rubbing it in their face. It's about finally understanding that your healing is not for revenge. It's for redirection. You didn't level up to get their attention. You leveled up because staying stuck was killing your peace. You're not who you used to be. You've shed the version of yourself who tolerated less, accepted breadcrumbs, and feared being alone. Now, your solitude feels sacred, your silence feels strong, and your reflection in the mirror, it finally feels honest. So when they sit there, haunted by memories and paralyzed by regret, remember this: you were not the one who left too early. You were the one who stayed too long. Let your growth be your message. Let your evolution be the echo that travels further than your voice ever could. And if this speaks to your soul today, write it in the comments and make it your personal reminder. I've outgrown the old story. Let it be seen. Let it be felt. Let it be known that you didn't just move on. You rose up. Stay with me. Because next, we're going even deeper. Number 4. The ego doesn't mourn until it's powerless. They never missed you. They just missed the control they lost when you stopped caring. Let that one settle for a second, because this is where things get real uncomfortable, not for you, but for them. My friends, when you were always available, always responding, always chasing, they weren't attached to your love. They were attached to the power your love gave them, the reassurance that someone out there was orbiting their world, giving them attention without effort, validation without commitment, access without responsibility. You were a constant, like a loyal shadow following them in the dark, no matter how far they walked, no matter how little they looked back. You gave. You gave your time, your energy, your heart. And for a while, they enjoyed that power. Not in a conscious, villainous way. No, most people don't even realize what they're doing. But the ego? The ego knows when it's being fed, and it got real full off your attention. But here's the twist. The ego doesn't feel anything until the supply is cut off, and that's exactly what you did. Quietly, without warning, you stopped feeding it. No more chasing, no more reaching out, no more checking if they're okay, watching their stories, double-tapping their posts. You took all that energy and poured it back into yourself. And suddenly, their ego was starving. Now they sit there, confused, agitated, asking themselves questions they never thought they'd ask. Why haven't they texted me? Are they really done? Wait, they don't need me anymore? It's not love they feel. It's withdrawal, and it burns. They weren't prepared for this version of you, the one that doesn't react, doesn't explain, doesn't fight to be understood, the one that no longer gives them the privilege of your energy. And here's the part most people never say out loud. For some, your silence hurts, not because they lost you, but because they lost the ability to control how you feel. They miss being able to poke you and watch you bleed. They miss being able to disappear and still return to open arms. They miss knowing that no matter what, they could get a piece of your heart on demand. But that power's gone now, isn't it? You've leveled up, you've built boundaries, you've stepped back into yourself, and without your emotional investment, they're left shouting into an empty hallway. No one's clapping for them anymore. No one's boosting their ego with late-night texts and "I miss you" messages. And the silence, oh, the silence is suffocating. You were their emotional mirror. And now that the mirror is gone, they're left staring at a blank wall, just their own reflection, raw and unfiltered. Now they're starting to see who they really are. Not the version you tried to love, not the one you believed in, the one who didn't reciprocate, the one who didn't show up, the one who thought they had time. Let me break this lie. They must have truly cared if they're hurting now. No. Sometimes the pain they feel isn't about losing you. It's about losing the ability to manipulate your emotions. They hate that you're calm. They hate that you're grounded. They hate that your joy no longer depends on their presence. But that's not your burden anymore. Because what they lost was a version of you that no longer exists. That version who would overextend, explain, cry, beg. You buried them in silence, and in their place stands someone new, someone dangerous, someone free. And let me tell you, there's nothing more terrifying to a person who once held power over you than realizing you no longer need them, not for validation, not for love, not even for closure. So if their ego is hurting now, let it. It's not your job to comfort the person who only valued you when they had control over you. It's not your job to heal the same hand that bruised you. Your only job now, keep glowing, keep growing, keep going. Because you've broken the cycle, you've unplugged from the system, and in doing so, you've reclaimed your peace, your clarity, your center. So if this hits you in the gut, and you know this is your truth, I want you to write this in the comments and claim it like armor. They lost control, not love. Let the world see it. Let yourself see it. Because now, your silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Stay with me. What's coming next? It'll strike even deeper, because once you stop reacting, they start breaking. Number 5, they miss what they can't access. People don't chase what they already have. They chase what they can't touch anymore. That's the strange nature of human psychology, my friends. It's not until you take your presence off the shelf that they realize it wasn't some dusty ornament. It was the very thing holding their world together. You see, they never really looked at you while you were there. You were just available. Too available, emotionally open, spiritually naked, always picking up, always reaching out, always giving more than they ever asked for, because deep down you wanted to be seen, wanted to be chosen, but that's not what happened, did it? They got used to the comfort, the daily check-ins, the emotional support, the fact that you always responded, even when you shouldn't have. They treated you like a convenience store, open 24/7, always stocked with empathy, affection, and energy. They didn't have to earn your love. They just had to expect it. But the second you locked the door, that's when they noticed the hunger. It's not just that you're gone, it's that they can't reach you anymore. Your energy has become a closed gate, your attention now behind walls they no longer have the key to. And suddenly, the same person who once overlooked your texts is checking your online status, watching your stories, lurking in silence, hoping for a crack in the door. Because now you've become a mystery. Now you're no longer accessible, no longer offering free samples of your soul. And that inaccessibility, that's the trigger. That's what makes people start to miss you. Not love, not connection, scarcity. Let's break this illusion. They came back because they care. No, sometimes they come back because you've become rare. The emotional buffet they once grazed on is now closed, and they're realizing they were feasting without paying. And now, they're starving. They didn't crave you when you were pouring your heart out. They didn't value you when you were answering within minutes, explaining your worth, begging to be heard. They only crave you now because you're silent, selective, scarce. It's the oldest rule in the book. Desire increases when access decreases. That's not love. That's possession. Think about it like this. A child doesn't care about the toy sitting at the bottom of the basket. It's always there, always reachable. But the moment another kid picks it up, suddenly it becomes the most important toy in the world. They panic, they lunge, they cry. Not because the toy changed, but because someone else noticed its value. That's what happens when you move on. You stop being theirs by default, and now your presence, your peace, is something they have to earn, and they don't know how. They've never had to. They're not equipped to chase what used to chase them. That's when the ego collapses. Because they assumed you'd always be there. They thought they had unlimited chances. They thought you'd wait. But they were wrong, because you stopped being emotionally available. You stopped leaving the door cracked open. You stopped explaining your worth and started embodying it. And now they're stuck on the outside, pressing their hands against the glass, staring in at the life you're building without them. And let me tell you, it's not your job to let them back in, because they don't miss the real you, not the one with flaws, with feelings, with fire. They miss the easy version of you, the free access pass. But that version, dead and gone. This new version of you doesn't perform for approval, doesn't need closure to be complete, doesn't crumble when ignored. You've become unreachable not out of spite, but out of growth. And now they miss the parts of you they never deserved in the first place. So the next time you feel the pull to explain, to reopen, to reconnect, remember this: they miss the access, not the connection. Don't confuse their curiosity for care. Don't mistake their sudden interest for investment. Because if they didn't fight to keep you when you were near, why should you hand them the key now that you've built walls with wisdom? If this section punched you with truth, write this in the comments: I'm no longer accessible. Let them feel it. Let yourself own it, because your energy is no longer a public service. It's earned, not expected. Stay with me, because next, we dive into the part that really haunts them, when your silence becomes a mirror they can't look away from. Number 6, your silence becomes their mirror. They thought your silence was weakness until it showed them everything they didn't want to see. Let's get this straight, my friends. Silence isn't the absence of power, it's the amplifier of it. And when someone's conscience is already shaky, your silence doesn't calm them, it confronts them. Loudly, relentlessly, every second you don't speak becomes a spotlight on their guilt, their choices, their ignorance. You stop explaining, and suddenly they're alone with the truth. See, when you were constantly talking, explaining your feelings, expressing your pain, trying to get through to them, they had the luxury of deflecting. They could argue, they could minimize, they could pretend they didn't know better. But silence doesn't give them that escape. It becomes a mirror, and this time the reflection isn't pretty. They're forced to sit with the realization that maybe, just maybe, they were the problem, that they didn't show up, that they took advantage, that they stayed emotionally lazy while you did all the emotional lifting, and now there's no more noise to drown out that realization. Imagine standing in a room full of mirrors, no sound, no music, just the echo of your own breathing. That's what your silence has become for them, a cold, reflective chamber where every version of their mistakes stares right back at them. And the scariest part, you're not there to interrupt the reflection. No comfort, no explanation, no distraction. They're stuck in a conversation with the version of you that finally said nothing. And oh, it's deafening. They begin to analyze everything they overlooked, the texts they ignored, the times you reached out and they gave half-hearted replies, the way you showed up, stayed loyal, stayed present, and they didn't. Suddenly they're wondering, why did I think they'd always be there? Why did I take their presence for granted? But it's too late for those questions to matter now, because now your silence is doing the talking. And unlike your words, it can't be argued with. It's not emotional, it's not reactive, it's absolute. Let's break a dangerous lie while we're at it. If I stay silent, they'll think I don't care. No, my friend, if you stay silent long enough, they'll start to wonder why they don't hear from you anymore. And that wondering, that doubt, that questioning, that's when the mirror gets clearer and the regret starts to grow. Because silence doesn't mean you're empty. It means you're full of boundaries, clarity, and dignity. And while they sit there trying to guess what you're thinking, you're not thinking about them at all. You're busy healing, growing, becoming. While they're stuck in reflection, you're walking forward. That's the real power of silence. It leaves them behind, trapped in the echo chamber of their own conscience. They don't know what version of you they're dealing with now, and that terrifies them. Before they could predict you, they knew you'd text, they knew you'd forgive, they knew you'd eventually cave. But now, you've vanished into your peace, and they're not invited in. That mystery becomes unbearable. They start to stalk your social media. They replay old conversations. They try to reverse engineer what went wrong, but nothing gives them the answer they want, because the only person who could have explained it, you, has gone quiet. And that silence, it's loud. Sometimes silence isn't closure, it's confrontation without compassion. They're confronting everything they ran from while you were still speaking, everything they denied while you were still loving. And now, the only voice they hear is the one they silenced too many times before, but not anymore, because you're no longer fighting for clarity. You're no longer justifying your worth. You've given them a gift far greater than words. You've given them space to reflect, and the courage to sit in it is theirs to find. So if your silence has become their mirror, and you know they're seeing things they never wanted to see, write this in the comments right now. My silence is their truth. Let it be known, let it be felt. Because silence doesn't mean absence, it means arrival. The arrival of your standards, the arrival of your peace, the arrival of the new you. Stay with me. What's coming next will break them more than your presence ever could. It's the moment they realize you've moved on, and they're still stuck in the same place. Number 7. You moved on, and they're still stuck. The moment you moved on was the moment their world stopped moving. That's the painful part they never saw coming, because in their mind you were supposed to stay emotionally frozen, stuck, still hurting, still hoping, still orbiting around them like a moon tied to their gravitational pull. But something shifted, quietly, subtly, and then all at once, you were gone. Not just physically, not just in presence, but emotionally untethered. And now, my friends, while you're walking forward, they're standing in the ruins of a story they never thought would end without them. At first, they didn't notice. You stepping back looked like a silent retreat, not a full departure. They thought you'd be back. They always did. That's what your history trained them to expect. They thought you'd check in eventually, send a memory, drop a like, react to their bait. But it never came. And the days turned to weeks, and the silence turned to realization. You weren't being distant, you were being done. You weren't punishing them, you were protecting yourself. And while they were busy playing games, testing your patience, or staying busy with distractions, you were evolving in silence. You were building yourself from the inside out, finding pieces of your identity you had lost trying to please them. And by the time they looked up, you were already out of reach. Now they're stuck in a loop, replaying the past, rereading old messages, wondering where it all went wrong. But the tragedy is, they already know. It didn't go wrong all at once. It crumbled slowly, moment by moment, every time they dismissed your effort, overlooked your worth, and gambled with your loyalty. And now, they're haunted by the person you used to be, because they realize that version of you doesn't exist anymore. You're not bitter, you're not broken, you're rebuilt, and that's what kills them. They stayed in the chapter you outgrew. They're still hoping to return to a storyline you've already finished reading, and they can't understand why you won't look back. They don't realize that healing changes your vision. What you once tolerated now repels you. What you once begged for now bores you. What you once saw as love, you now see as a lesson. You didn't leave them behind. You simply grew into the version of yourself that no longer fits beside them. And the beauty of your growth. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's not filled with revenge or showmanship. It's silent mastery. They're not watching you gloat, they're watching you glow. Quietly, with peace, with focus, with purpose. And that silence, it burns more than any words ever could. But let's break a myth they believed. You'll always love them the same. No, you won't. Love transforms too, especially when it's been neglected, tested, or taken for granted. What once was soft becomes steel. What once chased now stands still. What once wanted them now only wants truth, peace, and respect. And they can't offer that. Not genuinely, not consistently, and definitely not now. So here they are, stuck, in regret, in reflection, in what-ifs. Meanwhile, you're finally seeing the view from the mountain you started climbing the day you stopped making excuses for their behavior. And don't be surprised if they try to come back, not because they've changed, but because they're stuck. And your movement makes their stillness unbearable. They'll tell you they miss the old you, but they don't even know the new you, the one who doesn't explain, the one who doesn't beg, the one who walks away with dignity instead of drama. Let them stay stuck. That's their karma. Your peace is your reward. So if this hits your chest like it was carved from your own story, say this out loud in the comments, and say it for you. I've outgrown what broke me. Let it echo through your soul. Let it be a reminder that moving on doesn't mean forgetting. It means forgiving yourself enough to stop waiting for people who couldn't rise with you. Stay with me, because next, we're stepping into the moment that cuts the deepest, when they realize they waited too long, and now you're beyond their reach. Number 8. By the time they realize you're already beyond reach. One day they'll come back, but not for you, for the version of you that no longer exists. And that, my friends, is the truth they never saw coming. They didn't think there would be a point of no return. They thought they had time, that your love would wait, that your soul would stay parked on the front porch of their indecision, watching the door, hoping it would open again. But here's what they never understood. You weren't waiting, you were waking up. They were too busy taking you for granted to notice the shift. While they were out chasing distractions, you were slowly rebuilding, quietly pulling your energy back. Piece by piece, moment by moment, you were unlearning your old patterns and rewriting your own story. No announcement, no drama, just discipline and distance. And now, they're knocking on a door that doesn't exist anymore. Because by the time they realize what they lost, you're already gone. Not just physically, spiritually, emotionally, energetically. They're not missing you, they're missing access to the emotional home you used to offer, the place where they could feel safe, adored, and forgiven. But that home was demolished the moment you decided that your peace was more important than their potential. They took your love for granted because it was always there, like a river they could drink from any time they were thirsty, without ever asking who kept the water flowing. But rivers don't run forever. Not when they're constantly drained. And now, they're walking to the riverbed only to find it dry. And the irony, you're not mad. You're not vengeful. You've just outgrown them. They still remember the old you, the one who would have dropped everything to answer their call, who would have bent your boundaries just to make things easier for them. That's who they're looking for. That's who they're hoping to find. But that version of you, gone. Buried beneath every ignored message, every unanswered call, every time they chose silence when you needed clarity, every time they tested your love and mistook your loyalty for weakness. They're remembering a character from a chapter you've already closed. They don't realize the book is finished, the pen has been put down, and you've started writing a new story with your own name on the cover. Now they're the ones feeling lost. They start asking themselves questions. Why didn't I take it seriously? What if I had just shown up when it mattered? Did I wait too long to come back? And the answer is yes. They waited until the urgency faded, until your tears dried, until your heart healed, until your world no longer revolved around the idea of us. And now, they're guests in a life that used to be theirs, but there's no seat at your table anymore. That's what happens when you give someone too many chances to value you. They start thinking your love is endless, that your patience is infinite, that you'll always be one message away. But healing isn't a waiting room, it's a one-way train, and you've already left the station. Let's destroy a lie right here. If they come back, maybe it's meant to be. No, sometimes them coming back is the final test, to see if you'll betray the person you've become, for the person who broke you in the first place. They didn't fight for you when they had you. Now they're fighting for a ghost, and ghosts don't answer texts. So don't confuse their regret for redemption. Don't let their timing distort your truth. They may be ready now, but you no longer are, because you've rebuilt yourself into someone who knows their value, someone who doesn't get stuck in what was, someone who protects their peace like treasure. And if this section feels like a mirror held up to your story, speak it into the comments and seal it in your soul. I'm already beyond reach. Let them feel it. Let you feel it. Not out of bitterness, but because you've finally become someone who no longer returns to places where they had to beg to be seen. So as we come to the end of this powerful journey, let's take a moment to reflect, not on who left, but on who you've become. This wasn't just about heartbreak or absence. This was about transformation, about waking up, about realizing that the moment you moved on was the moment your power returned. And by the time they finally noticed your worth, you had already evolved into someone they could no longer reach. That is not a loss, it's a rebirth. So if this video stirred something in your soul, drop a comment below and write, "I'm already beyond reach." Let it be your stamp of closure, your line in the sand. If this message spoke to you, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to Powerful Stoic Habits for more content that helps you rise stronger, quieter, and wiser.